What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday to everyone. We're going live. We are live, everybody. So we're starting a new series here in Ages of Film. Everyone knows I'm a horror fan. Horror is kind of my bread and butter. It's my favorite genre. So I wanted to keep doing some horror stuff. With all the Superman content I've been putting out, I don't want my horror fans to feel left out. You know what I mean? So I figured I'd start a new kind of horror series that should be fun. So we're going to be doing an original versus remake kind of compare and contrast type of thing. It'll be a new series we'll start. And I figured since it's summertime and everyone's out camping this time of year, out getting all hot and sweaty and nasty in the outdoors, why not have some fun with that? And let's do a Friday the 13th, get it started off right. So we're going to be looking at comparing and contrasting the original Friday the 13th with the remake from 2009. But I didn't want to do this alone. No, sir. So this is going to be a series I'm going to be doing with my buddy Jack Petrie here, joining me. Jack, what's up, man? Thanks for being on here, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Been looking forward to doing this, talking some more horror. You're one of my kind of good horror mates that I can just tell you about all the films that I'm watching and you'll always understand, which is great.
Sir.
So,
yeah, awesome.
I've been excited to do this. It's been fun revisiting these two films again. It's been a little while. So, looking forward to getting into it today.
Sweet. Love it, man. And Jack's also a big horror fan too. So I figured, I was thinking of someone to do, because it's always funner when you can get someone to do content with you, especially like when it's live stream or horror or whatever. So and I knew Jack was a big horror fan, so I was like, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this together and team up? And he was all for it. So it should be fun. I think Jack and I are gonna both have pretty strong differences with these movies. He did watch both of them, I think, in the past 48 hours. Is that right?
I did. I had to be sure. I was like, going into this, if I haven't refreshed it, if I go and watch them after this and I don't feel the same way, I'm going to think, what was I doing? Defend it.
Right.
We'll get into it when we get into it. But
yeah, I did manage to get to the original last night. I watched the original. The remake I didn't get around to rewatching for this, but I've seen the remake fairly recently, maybe like a month and a half or so ago. So I'm still pretty fresh on it, and it's a movie I've seen plenty of times, so I still know it pretty well. So, but we also got the chat to say what's up too. So we got some few people watching. We got Jerry Wilson, my mod. What is up, Jerry? Hello all. Thanks for being here, Jerry. We got Russell Dorsey in the house. Russell saying, what's up, everyone? Let's smash that like button if you haven't already. Let's enjoy this awesome stream. Hi, Clayton, Jack, and everyone in the chat. Let's get this party started. That's what I'm talking about, Russell. Thanks for being here, man. Appreciate you. Backtrack Cinema. Jason is in the house. Hey, guys. What's up, Jason? Glad you could make it, buddy. Thanks for being here. Russell saying hi to Jason. All right, so this should be fun, man. So I was trying to think of how to do this, and what was the best way to go about analyzing this. So what I'm curious about first, just to get us started here, is Jack, do you remember your first viewing of the original Friday and your first time seeing the remake, and what was kind of your initial reaction to the two?
So yes, I remember seeing both of them. I saw the original years and years ago, probably when I was about 15 or 16. And it was only because I'd heard about it. It was basically from my parents really speaking about it. Because obviously I'm too young for the original Friday the 13th generation. As we're both too young.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of before my time. But I'd always kind of heard that it was one of these iconic horror movies back in the day. And I'd seen the cover before, you know, the kind of cover with the little like portrait thing with all the camp within it and stuff. And I'd always just been intrigued by it. And I managed to find it on a website online. Because obviously, back as a teenager, you don't pay for movies.
Right.
I
Yeah.
found it on there, and I remember watching it for the first time in horrendous quality. Watching it again, obviously, it was filmed on probably lower budget cameras. So it probably wasn't doing it justice anyway. But yeah, I saw it when I was quite young, and I really liked it. I remembered really liking it when I was younger. I was about that age. I was kind of just getting into horror, really, and just kind of working my way through all the big, you know, the big names: Scream, Elm Street,
Yep.
and then after that came across Friday. It didn't have the same, I guess, impact on me that something like Scream or Nightmare on Elm Street did.
Mhm.
All those movies, I was kind of more intrigued to revisit again in later life. Now that I'm kind of much more into horror, and watch a lot of it. But back then, I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool reveal. I'm assuming we're doing full spoilers here for anyone that's watching because we're getting into them. But yeah, I did like that about it. But it didn't maybe have the same impact that something like Scream did on me.
Mm.
Halloween, as health, obviously, of course, the other big one, Halloween.
Right.
That is always the lesser of the big ones for me. But yeah, so that was for the original, and the remake I saw when I was very much into horror. I saw that a little bit later, when I first got that on DVD. Just because I'd seen the Texas Chainsaw remake, and obviously a lot of those horrors in that 2000s time, I think, had quite a similar style, didn't they? Really,
Yep.
you know, if you liked some of those movies, the chance of you, if you liked Hills Have Eyes remake,
Right.
TCM remake, you are probably going to get into the vibe of the Friday remake. So yeah, watched that, kind of enjoyed it a couple of times, but I hadn't revisited it in a little while until coming around to it now.
Nice. So you did see the original before the remake.
I did, yeah, I
Okay.
did see it before. Yeah,
Interesting, because I saw the remake first, before I ever saw the original, which may it probably affected my overall feelings about the original, if I'm being honest. Because I think if you're just coming into the Friday franchise and you've never seen a Friday movie and you start with the remake, I
yeah,
think most people would agree the remake is probably the darkest as far as like the
yes,
tone and the look of it. I mean, I
yeah,
think it's probably the most horror centered Friday movie, with maybe the exception of four, maybe six, although six is kind of playful and coy at times. But I
yeah,
think the remake is probably the darkest. I think most people would agree. So if you're coming into the franchise and that's what you're starting with, when you go back then and watch the others that are a lot lighter, they kind of lean into the campy type of feel, they can maybe not seem quite the same as that remake. So I feel like
yeah,
if I would have started off with the original and had just gone straight through, maybe I would have had a different feeling about the remake. I don't know, but I
yeah,
started with the remake. That was the first Friday movie I ever saw. So I think that kind of plays into my overall thoughts of the original some. But I didn't grow up as a big horror fan. Like I talked about some on my channel. I saw a few horror films as a child, but I didn't really start getting into horror until I was in college. So that was when I was introduced to Jason and some of the other horror characters like that. But that's interesting that you did see the first one. Um, did you?
I think
So
the thing is, I think the thing is here. I mean, by the time the Nightmare on Elm Street remake came out, I was kind of old enough, I guess, to go out and see this film. So when they were coming out at cinema, and they were a
mm,
bit of a bigger deal. Whereas the Friday remake, because I don't know how it differs in America, but in England, there was obviously movies that got age ratings, and they're quite
right,
strict on them. So I think I was probably only 16. Yeah, I'd have been 16 when the remake came out. So I would never have been able to go and see it out at the cinema. I didn't have friends that were going out to see it. So it's not like I kind of was aware of it. I don't even remember at that time it being in. I don't really remember anything about it. It was only years later when I was out sort of movie shopping, and I was like, "What? They did a Friday remake?" I had no idea because I didn't used to follow movie news like I do now. like in horror now, I'm aware of everything going on, you know, because you see stuff, you follow pages on it, loads. I talk to you guys that have an interest. We're always kind of aware of what's going on. Whereas back then, I'd seeked out the original because it
Mhm.
was a movie I kind of heard about from, you know, as I say, like family, friends, stuff like that. But I wasn't really even aware of the remake, so it was kind of the other way around for me. But by the
Interesting.
time the Elm Street remake came out, I think 'cause obviously that was a couple of years after, I believe, and by that time I was certainly more aware of
Mm.
these kind of remakes and stuff coming out. So
Yeah, it is interesting, how that plays out. And we'll definitely that'll be at some point down the road. We'll do Nightmare on Elm Street original and remake comparison. That should be interesting because that one's that has some strong opinions on on the remake. There are
certainly
people out
does.
there that love it and people out there that whew,
Yeah. I mean,
just
they're always interesting debates, originals versus remakes, because there's a lot
right.
of years between them. It's usually different, obviously, different generations grew up with the films. And I think if certain people are sort of attached and connected to the style of how that original film was made, and you've got sort of a much slicker, newer, modernized version coming about, I think people naturally go in apprehensive about it. And I definitely had that thing as well. I think when I was younger, certain films, if I felt like they were ripping off other things, I naturally went in more negative about them.
Mm,
Whereas I find more now that I'm able to kind of watch the films independently and just think, well, how much do I actually like this film? Like Elm Street Remake's a great example. I used to really hate that movie. Like a lot of the discourse online, the way people feel about it is that they're very negative on it,
mm,
and I think it's a way worse film, I would say, than the original. But
sure.
I watched it again recently, and I don't hate it. I feel differently about it. So it's kind of interesting that. Whereas I guess Friday's a bit of a weird franchise because a lot of people preferred the sequels over the original anyway. So I guess people were already open to not kind of saying that the original was gospel and you have to love that one, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah. It would, and that is something that's interesting about the Friday franchise because typically the original is like that's the standard, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, for a lot of people, Texas, the
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw, like a lot of them, the original, that's the standard, and then everything that follows is just inferior. But yeah, Friday is interesting because I don't know that I've ever, and I've talked to a lot of horror fans. I don't know that I've ever heard someone say that the original Friday is their favorite Friday movie, which is interesting.
No, nor me. Nor me.
Yeah. So I while Jack was talking there, I did go ahead. I was interested because I know you mentioned the budget thing. The original Friday budget was just over 500,000. So it was very low budget. And we're talking $500,000 to make a horror film. That's not a lot of money. Even for 1980, that wasn't like that was
No.
not a lot of money. Whereas the remake had a $19 million budget. So quite a big difference there, for sure. That
So even
the
just for inflation, it's still an order of magnitude bigger in terms of the budget, isn't it? Really, you know.
right, yeah, yeah. So that's definitely something to take into consideration when you're comparing these two movies. Is one obviously had a much bigger budget to work with, and the bigger budget you have, the more production value you can put into your film. So interesting to know there. Um, since you watched both of these in the past 48 hours, what were some similarities that you found with the original versus remake? I don't think it's a carbon copy. I don't think it's like the Psycho remake where it's basically just copy and paste
No.
into 1998. I think there's definitely differences here. It's not a carbon copy, but what were
Yeah.
some of the similarities that stood out for you, with these two?
I think interestingly, obviously, because the original, it was all about the mystery. Again, in the further films, they became more your classic sort of slashers. And
Mhm,
obviously, the first one was a mystery. And I think in this film, to some extent, even though you obviously know who Jason is, they do give you with the epilogue, they give you a little bit of the story to set up and refresh people,
mhm,
and kind of almost tell us the twist and of the first movie in that opening scene. So I think they do kind of bring back a little bit of that mystery element of Jason, what he's about, what he's doing, and that kind of stuff. So I think that's why the original and the remake to me do feel different to the sequels in some ways.
Mm,
I know people that say critics at the time, I know for the remake were critical of it for not feeling fresh. And I think you could only say it's not fresh in the sense that, the script for Friday the 13th, it was a simple story. It's a
sure.
simple kind of revenge story of something happening, something going wrong, and there's a killer coming back for revenge on these people in their minds, rightfully. And it's like, that idea was a basic idea for a story, and it obviously resonated with people and it worked. And they've taken that again and done the same thing, but I guess kind of mixing more of the early films together. Like, I feel like if you take the first few Fridays and kind of mix them up, this is kind of what the remake is. So yeah,
Mhm.
it didn't go a completely new direction with the story. But obviously it's still taking the initial like blueprints, I guess, of that Friday story. But it does
Right.
have a little bit of mystery about it, how the characters aren't really aware that they're being stalked until very late in the game as well. That's another thing about it. Because obviously, like, in the original, the characters have no idea. I've kind of forgot about that. They don't even realize they're being stalked and killed until the final acts
Right.
of the movie. And it's kind of a little bit like this one, really. By the time they realize, it's like all this stuff has already gone down. Which is quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Russell saying with remake, it's 1 through 3 all in one. Basically, I mean, there's definitely a lot
Yeah.
there.
So I guess if you
So
think of like
Jared.
the pinnacle parts of like the story where you have, the mother of Jason is stalking and killing, coming back, is killed, Jason arrives, starts taking people out, and then discovering them or beginning to wear the hockey mask. So I feel like those are three iconic moments from Friday. And that is, as Russell points out there, that is 1, 2, and 3. So it's kind of
Right.
really a combination of those films with its own little spin put in there as well. But
I thought it was interesting how I like the approach that they did where they kind of took elements of the first three, which I feel like the first three and four, probably the first four are, I would say, most Friday fans' favorite, like the original run
yeah.
of movies. So they were kind of paying homage to those four films and trying to make a love letter for the Friday fans, and do a good service while also making it a true horror film, which is something I really liked with the remake. But what were some of the noticeable, and you kind of touched on it, differences between them that stood out between the two? And of those differences, which do you prefer?
Mm. I think I think the thing is, it's interesting watching them now back to back. So I haven't ever watched them like this, like in such close succession, where you can like directly compare them. I mean, the whole style of the way they're filmed and done, and like apart from the story, the way they are made as horror films is completely different. It's like, I think watching the original Friday and then watching the remake is quite an interesting way to see how filming horror movies and the kind of tropes of horror have changed so much in like 30 years between them. Um, and I think probably one reason why the remake is unpopular with people, I'm sure, is because there is definitely a certain style and vibe about that original. I think with a lot of people who love the Friday the 13th series, probably acknowledge they aren't the best made films in the world
Mm,
in terms of actual filmmaking artistry. But there's something about them. They have a charm and a style about them. And the Friday remake is definitely not copying that. It's
right,
taken the story, but it is very much a modern horror film that when you look at, as I was saying, the remakes, the horror around that sort of late 2000s period, it's being made very much through the modern lens of horror filmmaking, I think, which is why it kind of separates itself, even though it is kind of taking that initial story. And I can only imagine now that's the reason why some people are negative on it. Because I've heard a lot of people are quite negative about the remake, and like I've heard you kind of say before, you don't really understand like why people really hate on that film. And I do kind of agree to a certain extent as well, because I think it's great. But I can definitely see that there's something different about the way they're made, and I can understand why people love the style of one and not the other. I
Mm.
think, you know.
Yeah, there definitely there's definitely a style. What's up, Damien? There's definitely a style difference, noticeable style difference between the two, and I think that the original was probably going for more of that kind of camp feel vibe
Yeah,
to it, while making a kind of whodunit type of horror film, because that was kind of the thing at that time, with the birth of the slashers. A bunch of those whodunit type of mystery slasher films were coming
yeah,
out. um and whereas the Friday remake takes, a like I said, a darker tone, I think leans more into the horror aspect. Like, if you were
yeah,
going to make Friday the 13th a legit horror film, what would that look like? And I
yeah.
think they kind of explore that avenue. So two different
Yeah, I meant to
styles.
highlight that you said earlier
Yeah,
about it feeling a lot more like a dark horror movie, and that is so true. Like, even
yeah,
as you say, with some of the darker sequels from the Friday the 13th like kind of series, even
right,
the darkest, like I say, probably final chapter, it still has like an awareness and almost like, as you say, a playfulness about it
yeah.
that this remake does not have. Like, there's obviously characters that are jokey and there's some fun people that are in within the cast and stuff, but it is a dark, full on hardcore horror film, very
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and it's two different styles, and everyone has their preference. Some people like a lot of those campy 80s horror film, and I get it, especially, like, I'm not an 80s kid. I was born in the 90s, so I didn't grow up with that 80s feel, that 80s vibe of
Yeah,
campy horror films. So, but I would imagine people that did, they love that style of horror film. I know
yeah,
they do. But then you also have people who, like me, I gravitate more towards the darker side, like the real horror films, because that's what I want to be scared in a horror film. Like, that's the purpose of a horror
yeah,
film, is to put you on edge, give you that rush to scare you in some way. And so that's what I kind of gravitate to in horror films. And that's why one of my criteria when I'm rating any horror film is, how scary is this movie? Because I call it the horror effect, because it needs to scare me to some degree. If it doesn't have that, then I got to deduct points from it, because in my opinion, it fails at being the genre that it's trying to be.
yeah,
So and that's one
absolutely.
reason I hail the remake pretty high. It's because I definitely think it's the most frightening of the Friday movies, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Yeah, I don't know, do you have
It's a very
anything?
it's a very intense film. I think that's the
Yes,
thing about it as well. 'Cause it does, of course, being the same director as the TCM remake. It does
yes,
have like an intensity about it where you always feel a little bit on edge watching it, which is something that I quite like about it. And of course, the fact that the guy who's playing Jason is Derek Mears, isn't it? And
yes,
his performance does feel, it's pretty brutal, and you do
y-
feel like you're being chased by somebody that is kind of very oppressive, I guess, and that makes it scarier. I think the only thing though that I would say about some of the older ones, because yeah, I would say of all of them, if you were gonna rank them in terms of like scariest, I think the remake's got to be up there. One thing I did like though, especially about the final chapter, which is actually my favorite Friday movie, I
mm,
think there was something in the performance where it wasn't just about the kind of like how physically dominant he was. There was something a little bit creepy there as well. And that's one thing I think is missing from the remake. That's one of the things I don't like about it as much. Where, yes, he's a very scary presence because of how big and like hulking this guy
mhm,
is. In fact, he's so violent, so explosive with the violence on these characters. Like the opening 15-minute kind of pre-credit scene. I
right.
kind of forgot how mad that opening scene was. You're just
Such
like
a great
you
opening.
go early, you're like, wow, okay,
Yeah.
what is this? And you didn't get anything like that in the
No,
original Friday series. I don't think, like, nothing compared to that level of intensity.
no.
But there
Yeah.
was some subtlety, I think, in some of the older performances. I believe the guy's name was Ted White, and he was the
Mm.
Jason from the final
4.
chapter.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 4 from 4, yeah. And he had some subtleties where he was unpredictable and creepy in kind of a different way, which
Mhm.
will probably work for some people more. For me personally, that's what I like the most, where it isn't
Mm.
just about how physically big and intimidating the person is. They have that kind of slightly creepy factor about
Right.
them as well.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Um, and although I do think it also depends on the killer. Like one thing I know I have to bring up Michael Myers. I'm sorry. A Halloween guy, man. But I think that's one of the things that made Nick Castle's performance work in the original is that he's not a big guy. And yet
Yeah,
you see him doing these things that a guy his size probably shouldn't be able to do. That adds that fear. Like, what is this thing?
yeah,
Whereas a guy like what's Tyler Mane, who plays Michael in the Rob Zombie films, huge guy. And obviously,
absolutely.
physically, if you come across him in the street, not going to want to throw down with that dude. Um, but you would expect him to be able to have these crazy feats of strength. But someone that's not a big guy who's doing
Yeah.
those same types of things, to me, that's more frightening.
I totally
So,
agree. I totally
yeah,
agree. And that I think that's something that was lost, even though I am a fan, of the 2000 onwards kind of horror and remakes and whatnot. They did start to go with that trend, didn't they? Where they kind of
yeah,
felt like if things are faster, bigger, stronger, that automatically makes it scarier, and that
right.
really isn't the case. And I do think, particularly with Friday, that is
Yeah.
kind of highlighted somewhat. Like I can watch it, I can feel like it's intense when I'm watching it,
Hmm.
finish the movie and I'm like, oh, okay, that's it. It's not that performance in itself was good. It's not memorable for being scary, I don't think. Whereas
Mm.
there's elements about the final chapter, I think, in particular, maybe even from the one before as well. I think that the guy before, I'm pretty sure it was part three. I have to refresh myself all those movies to make sure I'm talking about the right one from the right film.
Yeah.
But definitely from four, I do think there is it's that kind of thing of it's not about being physically dominant or
Right.
running at you or something. There's just extra little subtleties that are put in there that makes this character quite haunting. And I think that was something that was lost because with the TCM remake, like you were saying, with
Mhm.
Tyler Mane in the Rob Zombie Halloween remake, and then the 2009 Friday remake, it's like they all went with that same
Right.
idea. Um, I
Yeah.
don't think it's quite as effective, but I mean,
Yeah.
some people disagree, so it's definitely a taste thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people, I know some people that like you said, they prefer the bigger, bulkier people. They find that more intimidating, and it makes sense. Physically, yeah, they would look more imposing. But I know for me, seeing just an average size person doing something that only someone that is like doing someone that's like an average sized person doing what Tyler Mane is doing or what Derek Mears is doing, that's more scary because I'm
Yeah,
like, this
yeah,
person shouldn't be able to conjure up that much strength
absolutely.
to do that.
And I think it's great
Um,
because they never, like Friday, never shied away from the kind of supernatural element being
right.
in there as well. So you didn't have to explain it away, in the sense that, oh no, this is just a regular guy. He's just, he's been working out a lot, even though he doesn't look like it. You don't have
Yeah.
to do that because they always had the supernatural element there that he's almost undead in a way. So it's like,
Mhm.
you can get away with that in the storytelling.
Right.
So it kind of works, I think. And they didn't shy away from that. There's no reason to have him as this big character. It's like you can give that person the strength because
Mhm.
it is supernatural in that way.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. So that actually leads me to a question I want to ask. Of the two killers, Pamela Voorhees, Jason Voorhees, maybe a dumb question, but there are people out there that actually like Pamela more than Jason, surprisingly. Um, I, I think I forget the lady's name who played Pamela.
Betsy Palmer.
Betsy
Betsy
Palmer,
Palmer.
yeah, yeah. I think she gives a good performance,
She does. She's
as
very good. That's one thing
she
that
is.
actually did stand out to me about the original watching it. I mean,
Mhm,
obviously Jason, the whole design and the kind of legacy of Jason makes him iconic. in his way. So I think it's difficult to say it's better. I mean, obviously the original kind of stands out as being a little bit different because it isn't actually. I mean, it's easy to kind of forget that, isn't it? In some way that you talk about people, everyone knows about Jason, even if you don't really know much about horror. Everyone knows Jason, but the
Yeah.
actual original movie never
Right.
features him until the final seconds. But it's kind of interesting that. But I did think it's there's problems in the way the film sets it up, but I think the reveal of her being the killer and the
Mhm.
way it's portrayed by the actress as well, it's quite good. I do think
Yeah.
it is quite good. I did enjoy that.
Yeah, I did. I do think Betsy Palmer does a good job as Pamela. Obviously, Jason is going to be the more iconic, the more intimidating, physically imposing force. Uh, but do you think that Friday should have gone with like maybe kind of the Scream route where there's a different killer at Camp Crystal Lake every film, or do you think establishing one killer the rest of the
Yeah.
franchise works better?
I think, it's difficult to say now because we have what we have, and I'm like, it would have been quite
Right.
interesting to see, the camp setting, the old school camp setting slasher with the kind of mystery, the
Yeah.
slasher mystery put in. But I actually think it is better the route they decided to go with, mainly because now I like looking back at the 80s because you did have these iconic horror villains. Like, it's
Hmm.
kind of interesting to look back at the history of horror with Freddy Krueger and why a one particular icon of horror was so big at the time because you don't really get that now the same way. The kind of horror films that are successful now, do well, and kind of resonate with people are very different kinds of movies. I think
Right.
to what they were back then. People liked, sequels with your one killer coming back. So I actually think I actually like what they did because now to me it kind of feels like something different. If I don't fancy a modern type horror film, I love kind of going back to the days of Freddy or just Jason
Yeah.
and this kind of familiar setup. It's almost like comfort watching in a way because you kind of you expect certain things, and I
Right.
think there's an element of fun that comes with that we don't get as much these days. So I'm actually happy with the way they
It played out.
kind of went with it. I mean, not all the sequels were good. Don't get me wrong. We should we should have a stream on that one time. But they didn't always do it right. But I actually did like running with just this one
Yeah.
kind of villain. I think that made it interesting, especially for its time.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, obviously we got Jason out of the franchise, which is good. I mean, what would horror be without Jason Voorhees? I mean, he's become so iconic, like you said. He's
Yeah,
transcended the horror genre into pop culture, video
absolutely.
games, computer games, all this stuff. But I do wonder what the franchise would have been like if you went the Scream route and had a different killer. You put the focus instead of on the killer of Jason, you put the emphasis on the actual setting. In every
Yeah,
film, there's a new group at Camp Crystal Lake with a different killer each time. I don't exactly know how that would play out or what the killer's
yeah.
motives would be or whatever, but I thought it was I don't know. I've always felt like you could do something because everyone goes camping, and every year there would be a new group, that would be coming by or whatever.
You
I
could
don't know.
plausibly explain it as well, that, like, if there was somebody amidst the group where there was
Yeah.
just gonna be this kind of slasher mystery, and it's like, where would you do that? If you're gonna take
Right.
out somebody in your friend group, you'd go out to, like, a lake in the woods
Yeah.
where nobody can find you. I mean, there maybe is a way you could actually write that into a script and
Yeah.
have it somewhat plausible.
Right.
So it's cool. I mean, I love the setting. I think that's why I
Yes.
love Friday so much. So to me, the I like even like the idea of having a murder mystery take place in the camp,
Right.
woodlands kind of locations, I love. I really love.
Yes.
Which is probably why I have a bit of like so much affection for these movies. I think, but I
Yeah.
think it could have worked. It's just I it feels like a shame these days you don't really get to have, as you say, this horror icon that transcends just being in the movies. They're a known figure,
Right.
and I just feel maybe it's because I feel like we're starved of that these days. So it's kind of cool that we did get that. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
for
think it could have
sure.
worked. I think for the setting, a murder mystery could definitely have worked. I do think as well, though, the directors and filmmakers that pulled off a murder mystery right,
Mhm.
I don't want to say I feel it's wrong to say they were of higher quality. I feel like it took a certain director that was able to pull off a really good murder mystery where you genuinely were given little clues and you had to work stuff out. Um,
Yeah.
like watching quite a bit of Argento recently. I know you're a big fan of Argento,
Yeah.
and I'm getting there. I'm getting there slowly. But he was obviously very good with the kind of murder mystery, and he liked
Mhm.
little subtle details in and stuff like that. And I think with Friday, they maybe never quite got that level of filmmaker that would be able to completely handle a murder mystery. It was about the setting, the killer, the kills, all of that
Mhm.
kind of fun stuff. And they had directors that worked for that. But I feel like you needed something a bit more to pull off like really good murder mysteries, because if they fail, they really fail. Whereas
Right.
Friday, I feel like when it went wrong, they were still kind of good in a weird
Yeah,
way.
yeah. No, I agree. It's interesting. Um, which of the 2 between the original and the remake, which story do you like more? Do you prefer the whodunit mystery aspect of the original, or do you like the, "Hey, we know who the killer is. It's Jason. He's coming for blood." Which of the 2 stories do you prefer?
I Watching them again together, I definitely prefer the story of the remake.
Okay.
And I do think the element that they brought in where, okay, you have the established lore of Jason, you know he's out there, but the storyline I really love is about, the guy coming in to look for his sister, and it's taking place like weeks in advance, and it's given him a reason to kind of be there and actually investigating. So from the start, something's a bit wrong and a little bit up. And I kind of like that vibe being part of the movie. And
Mhm.
that's what I kind of have forgotten about the original, that they're all completely oblivious and unaware that anything at all is happening. Like there's not one sense that there's anything weird going on in the whole place. Like anybody that is killed, by the time they're being killed, that's as they're realizing what's going on. And
Oh,
there's
yeah.
no kind of awareness where, because they have more going on within the story in the remake. There is an atmosphere from the start that even the characters know something's a little bit off.
Mhm.
The group, when they first meet this guy, oh, you're looking for your sister. She went missing here in this place. There's some odd characters kind of warning them against going there because they've seen things that are unexplained. And it's like it kind of brings a bit more intrigue, I guess, the story. So I kind of
Yeah.
like they did a little bit more with that and combined that with the classic, group of 20s teens type going to party and then get
Yeah.
caught out by Jason. But just having that little side thing as well, I think
Right.
made it a little bit more interesting. And that's a trick they definitely missed with the original set of movies, I think.
Yeah, I think so too, especially, like, I don't know if it was the original plan of Sean Cunningham and, Victor Miller to have a lady be the killer, because that's one of the things, man, it just kinda comes out of nowhere, because, like,
It does.
everything throughout the film screams this is a guy, like, even the brief scenes that we see, it's clearly a guy shirt, guy hands, like, male type of strength doing all these killers, throws a body through a window, and then we find out, no, that was just this 55-year-old lady the whole time doing all this
Yeah.
stuff. It's like,
And when you actually see her in action and the way
yes,
she just gets knocked out about, I'm like, how
yes.
was she doing that? I do wonder
No,
that.
yeah, it makes
Yeah.
absolutely no sense,
I mean,
the
even the
reveal.
arrow, like, the Kevin Bacon, the arrow up, like to actually
Yes,
push an arrow up through a mattress whilst holding someone, I'm like, that would
right.
be quite hard to do.
Especially for a 55-year-old woman, like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, there's
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
no way I buy that
Yeah.
that
In
that
terms of
lady was doing that.
plausibility, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean,
Yes.
obviously, I think that's one of the things about the original that people do criticize, is that it's not a true whodunit, in the sense that you're not kind of guessing which of them it could be, because all of the characters we meet, it isn't them.
Right.
So it's like I guess you assume that they're. I'm trying to remember just from just recently watched it, whether they kind of let you in about any of the lore of Jason, the fact that the boy was drowned there. And it's this idea there might be this kind of killer who survived, or something, but you
Mhm.
obviously don't expect it to be the woman. I think the one thing I do like about it is that the way at the end they kind of introduce her quite casually, and she genuinely seems nice and normal. So you kind of like, obviously knowing it's difficult to kind of
Yeah.
like relive that experience knowing what happens, but it's kind of interesting when you meet her and she genuinely seems like this nice old lady. And when she
Yeah.
comes into the house, the way she starts to become more sinister is quite good. It's quite effective. So I like that final reveal. I just think there could have been maybe a better way to kind of introduce her into the story earlier, so we could at least guess along the way. Whereas I they didn't do that at all. She just was never there. Just turns up and
Yeah, no, it makes absolutely no sense. But that's saying like I wonder if I don't know the whole like what happened in the production. Maybe because I know it's Victor Miller who wrote the script. Maybe he had in mind a male character and then Sean Cunningham changed it, or maybe vice versa. Maybe Sean Cunningham wanted a male character all the way through, and then
yeah.
Victor Miller said, "Hey, no, it's supposed to be a lady." I don't
Mm.
know, but it doesn't blend well
No,
there when you
they
with
don't, as you say, in terms of like like being realistic and
right.
continuity around it, they don't manage to pull it off. I guess maybe at the
No.
time though, because you didn't. I'm trying to think. I mean, you will know probably better than me if they had horror films before that where you had the reveal as a female killer. It certainly wasn't prominent, you know. So it's like I think a lot of what makes the original Friday good to me in its own way is that you can feel that kind of legacy around it because it did bring the camp slasher into the forefront. The idea of the crazed female killer, and
Yeah,
I don't really remember prominent films from before that having that. So yeah, even though we look at it now, and as you say, there's loads of things about it where there's
right.
holes all over the shop in that movie
Yeah,
in terms of explaining certain things, but.
yeah,
I can imagine at this time where you see that woman, you're like, "Oh my god, it's her!" I can kind of imagine that.
right.
No,
Yeah, I mean, I can think of a few horror films where prior to this where the killer was a female, but there was some type of supernatural element with it. Where here they don't give you any. It would be different if we're told at some point that Pamela is possessed or something, where then what she's doing makes sense.
yeah,
But we're
that's all
not.
you've got to do. As you say,
Yeah,
that's all you've got to do.
that's all you
Yeah,
gotta do, but we're not given any of that, so you can't just chop it out to, "Oh, well, it's just supernatural." No, because we're not you have to read that. You're forced to just assume that, but you're given no reason to assume that other than, well,
yeah,
the only way I can make sense of it is if I connect these dots, but it's just like I said, it comes out of nowhere. I just don't buy that this 55-year-old lady can do the things that she's doing. And that's for me why the first time I saw it, it just didn't work. I was like, because I was kind of enjoying it the first time I saw it. I was like, okay, this is kind
so
of
you've
a
always not liked it then. It's not like a more recent thing where you've
yeah,
become more.
no. I've never been a fan of the
No,
original.
no.
And as I've watched it the few times since, more holes keep popping up. And I'm like, okay, yeah, now it's getting instead of getting better upon each viewing, it gets worse upon each viewing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
I think the thing is, it's a very flawed film, and I was kind of interested to watch it the other day because you know I was joking to you guys because I was kind of defending it a bit, you and Brian.
yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like, I was going into it, I thought I will kind of go in open minded and you know
mhm.
see how I feel about it. 'Cause you know how it is with movies. The more you watch
Oh
them,
yeah,
things change. You notice
for
certain
sure.
things, and I still like it. I wasn't maybe quite as hot on it as I remember being.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's just because I don't know. There is definitely there's so many problems with it. I think that's the main thing. I mean, part of what I like about it, and part of why I still do think it's a good film, part of it is because of what it led on to be.
Right.
As I said, it has that sense of legacy about it. It has got quite an iconic score, and it's
Mhm.
like all the little things that did work about it and made it iconic for its time. Those things all put together, you do still have a film that is memorable. Like when
Yep.
I see that on my shelf, I'm like, oh, Friday the 13th. Like
Yeah.
it just has something. It's something about it that has stuck with me,
Right.
and there's a vibe about it that I like. But you know, for all the reasons I'm sure we're about to get into about what you don't like about the film, I mean, I don't
Mhm.
look at that and think, oh yeah, no, he's wrong. Like it's actually great filmmaking there. Like there is so many things about it that I'm like, ooh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I think if someone said, "Hey, I love this movie because of the setting and I love the '80s cheesy camp vibe." If that's why you like it, I totally respect it because that's a totally subjective
yeah,
experience. Like that's just you can't help what you like. You like what you like, and you don't like what you don't like. But if someone says, "Hey, man, I love the original Friday because it's just a great film. So well written, great characters. I'm looking at them like, did you do all the drugs? You know, like what are you on right now, dude?
Do you
So
know what? I watching it through that perspective now of like thinking about why somebody wouldn't like the film, I was like, yeah, I get it. I definitely
yeah,
do get it. There
yeah.
was one thing that really stood out to me this time. This is what actually kind of brought it down. Because if I tell you, I like you, we kind of grade stuff on Letterboxd, don't we? I've like let,
Mhm.
and I put it down a little bit from what I had it at before. I think the main thing about it is it's got a very odd pacing about it. I think especially
It
in the
does.
second half, there's a certain point in the film where most of the characters are all gone. They've all been taken out. And obviously, our main character, Alice, she's still kind of basically unaware. You know, she's seen an
Mhm.
axe, a bloody axe on a pillow, and is seemingly still like, "Oh, that's
Right.
probably fine." And it's
Right.
like, and at that point, it's like there's something weird happens where it just doesn't have any sort of sense of urgency about it. The film kind of slows down just as you feel like it should be building up. And,
Yes.
and it's very clear that the remake, like watching the remake tonight, I think it's very clear that the filmmakers understand how to slowly build something out, create tension, build
Yep.
up suspense, and then run with it when they know it's the point to run with it. So I think from like a filmmaking perspective, I think that's why I would agree with you that the Friday remake does work better than the original because I just think obviously Sean S. Cunningham, okay, obviously because it's like you said at the start, it's so difficult to compare because of budget, and you never know like whether they had limited time to film it, did they have enough time to edit, all this kind of stuff.
Right.
At the end of the day, when you look at that final piece of work, that final film, undoubtedly there is major problems. I think with that original. That remake just simply doesn't have. You know, I get why
Right.
people might like the original four, but it just doesn't have the same problems.
Yeah, I agree. And some people like, and this is the thing about movie experience, everyone has different experience with a movie. And sometimes there's movies where you can see the flaws, you can recognize them, you know they're there, but you can forgive them, you can overlook them. They don't really bother you. And that's totally fine. I don't have that with the original Friday. To me, and I think it's because I don't invest with the character stories. If I'm not invested with the character stories, then all the other flaws really stand out and they really
Yeah,
start affecting my experience. Where if I'm engaged with the story or engaged, invested with the characters, I might overlook a flaw. Like I might see it, but it doesn't really
100%.
bother me because I'm like, well, I still really like these characters. I still really like the
Yeah,
story. But for me, that's one reason I've never really liked this movie. It's because none of these characters, I guess we'll move into the characters now, looking at the characters between the
yeah.
two. None of the characters in the original pull me in. Like, and part of it is the bad acting by a number of these actors that is just
I have to say, I
bad.
think this has got to be the thing that stood out to me the most. The
Yeah.
acting, I was like, "Whoa,
Yeah, yeah, it's
what
rough.
is
And
that?"
it gets worse with each viewing. That's the thing. Like
Yeah,
like
it's
every
very
time
wooden. It's very wooden and like very
it's
amateury. The
yeah, it's
acting.
very amateur.
Um,
The vocal expressions don't match the facial expressions or vice
no,
versa.
they just
And
don't
then
feel
you
like conversations. You know, like
no.
when you're talking to a person, the kind of mannerisms and the way people react to each other as they're talking, it feels like deliver line
Yes,
back,
yeah.
deliver line. It's like it
Right.
doesn't feel like, you know, whereas like obviously in the remake they've got much more professional actors. So it just it's
Mhm.
got a natural flow. Like, you know, they're not
Yes.
the best actors in the world, but you can tell they're professional, they understand acting. So it's like there's
Mhm.
a natural flow where it's not distracting. Like I say, we're about to get into the characters and the issues there because there are
Yeah.
some. But I think from an acting perspective, you're never distracted. And that's when acting becomes a problem, is when you're actually becoming distracted because it's
Yes.
wooden and because it's off-putting and you suddenly remember you're watching a movie, which is the thing you don't want, especially when
Right.
you're trying to immerse yourself in a horror film. And I think the
Right.
original suffers big time with that.
Yes, big time. And like I always look at acting in regards to like a note, like a key, like a musically, you have a key. You want to be on pitch, your performance to be on pitch. There's flat, which is when you're below the key, and then there's sharp when you're over the key. And I feel like a lot of these characters are just sharp. They're like they're overshooting the mark, and you're just like, why are you
Yeah,
reacting like that
yeah.
exactly? Or
It's very odd.
it's
And I
very
think the way
odd.
the film is edited does not do them any justice
No.
either, you know, because you could probably have cut it if a good editor, and maybe some more money, maybe could have cut it in a way that was a little bit, but
Yep.
there's too many unnatural moments to where
Yes,
it's distracting. And
it
as you
is.
say, the problem is as well, it's not just it's the acting is one big problem when you already don't have characters that you're invested in. I think that's something that all the Friday movies, to some extent, are troubled with. I mean, I like them just because I like that kind of setting where you've got a
Right.
load of young people, they're all having a good time partying together. I like around the campfire, having drinks. I like that stuff. So for me, that's the sort of thing at that age, at 18 to
Mhm.
25 or whatever they are. That's what I would have found fun. So I like that kind of vibe and that feel of that. But you know, especially as I'm getting older now, like you need to have characters that you can really latch onto something with. And I think the remake understands that because early on, okay, you have got that nostalgia of the kind of kids partying at the house and stuff's kicking off, but having that guy there, you know, Jared Padalecki's character, having him and having an actual reason to care about a character,
Mhm.
having him giving him an actual purpose and an arc and
Yes.
something he's fighting for, it means we just naturally become more invested in those kind of characters. Like even now, the original Friday, I only saw it what 20 less than 24 hours ago, and I'm already not really sure. I couldn't tell you anything about their personalities or even their names. I remember Alice's name
Yeah.
and the intro girl Annie, but I don't remember anything about them at all.
Yeah,
So
and that's
as they're
bad.
taken out, you're like
Yeah,
it looks good because the effects and whatnot, but
right. You just don't care because it's like, I don't care about these characters, so I don't care if they get killed off, because
yeah,
they're all so flat. There's no depth to any of them. They're all just a couple of young adults at a camp. We don't get to see them explore any inner turmoil, or we're not given what their character is, what are their values, what do they stand for. They're all
yeah,
kind of just the same young adults. I'm like, why should I, as a viewer,
yeah,
care? Why should I care about these characters? And they just don't give me a reason to. In the
no,
remake, they give me a reason to not like Trent. They give me
yeah.
a reason to be rooting for his girlfriend, what Panna Baker, whatever her name.
Danielle Panabaker, yeah,
Yes, like they give me a reason to be cheering for
yeah.
Panalecki's character. Like they
Absolutely.
they
And you
give
don't
me
have to do that
reasons.
much. You don't even have
No,
to
you
do
really
that
don't.
much. You just, yeah, like as you say, Danielle Panabaker, like you get a bit of a sense that she's kind of roped into this relationship and she's kind of putting up with certain things. Then she meets somebody that she kind of has a bit more for. And suddenly you just have to do that small bit of character
Yes.
building. And you suddenly feel like
Yes.
again, because I think her death is probably one of the most effective moments
Absolutely.
in the film, not just because it's a surprise, but it's like, oh, you don't realize I was actually quite invested in her getting out with the brother and sister and stuff. And I think with the original, there's so little done. There's so
Yes.
little done where
Agreed.
it's you genuinely, as you say, like you don't even dislike them or like them.
Right.
They're
You
just
just
there.
don't
They're
care.
just there. They're just there.
Yeah. I would rather not like a character. At least I'm caring, like
Yeah,
Trent,
yeah, yeah,
perfect example in the remake. I can't stand Trent, but that's what makes me invest with him. I want to
yeah,
see him get his
yeah,
up and
yeah.
comings.
I
And
think it's
so it works.
Trent's is so funny because obviously I know a lot of people. I've heard people say about that character kind of bringing the film down for them, but they're
I
talking in a
love
way where it's
Trent.
like they're kind of like unaware that the filmmakers want us like
Yes.
they obviously created it so he's going to have the biggest nastiest kill at the end, and he's
Yes.
written to be really over the top, and it's like it's funny. It just brings some lightness
Yes.
and some fun to the movie, and
I
it's like this
love Trent.
idea that, and I think some people kind of talk about it as if they haven't seen that we're actually not meant to. It's like, obviously, we're not meant to like this character.
Right.
You
It's like
know?
it's not the hero of the film. Like
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
supposed to hate this guy. So yeah,
Uh,
it's
I think
crazy.
maybe it does get. I think the over the top things. I've kind of gone up and down over the years on how I felt about the remake characters because at times I felt like they're like with Trent. I mean, it gets into almost like parody where he's so over the top. It's really there for comic effect, isn't it? Like the way
Mhm.
when he's shacking up with the girl at the end, the way he's
Right,
talking
right.
to her, it's just absolutely hilarious. And you're like, no one says that, no
Right.
one speaks like that. So it's like a
Right.
comedy light moment to bring, probably to make it
Yes.
not be so dark. And I've kind of gone up and down, where sometimes I feel like if a movie's kind of doing that to take me out of the moment, I don't like it. But
Yeah.
watching it now, I found it very entertaining, I have to say. I
Yeah.
quite
I
enjoyed it.
Trent has become one of my favorite characters in the Friday franchise. I just
Yeah.
love how much of a douchebag he is. So,
Just
yeah,
completely
he's
unaware that all his friends don't like
yeah,
him as well. I just find that
I
just so
know.
hilarious.
He thinks everyone loves him. It's like
Yeah.
literally no one in this house likes you.
It's
So,
actually the
yeah.
what's it, the character that Aaron Yu plays when he's going down to the shed at the end,
Yes.
and he's messing with all this stuff, and he's like, "You have never used this, you rich arsehole." I
Yes.
just find that stuff hilarious.
I
Like,
know. I did too. I That's the thing. I find that the Friday remake, it has so much better characters because it has characters, one, that I invest in. I care about the main protagonist and the plot going on there. I want him to find his sister. I feel for his sister and what happened to her in the beginning. So they give me a reason to care about her. They give me a reason to care about him and what he's doing, trying to find his sister. But then even the characters that we're hanging out with at the house, they're still entertaining, like
they
they're
are
fun. They're not like, they know exactly what they are, what they're trying to be, and they play into that.
absolutely,
And so that's one reason. And I say it all the time, characters are the most important thing to me in any film. I need to invest with the characters because they're the ones telling the story. The stories
yeah,
are told through the characters. So if I don't invest with the characters, I'm probably not going to invest with the film. So for me, like, that's why when I watched the original Friday, I like the setting, I like the score, I like Betsy Palmer's performance as Pamela, but that's
yeah,
about it. Like
yeah,
there's not anything production wise that is all stands out. There's nothing in the character department that's stands out or makes me want to come back and watch it. The story's very weak. The editing, like you said, is just horrible. You have scenes talk about filler, dude. Like the original has so much filler.
it
There are
does have a lot of
scenes
filler. It does
where
have, it does, yeah.
where
It's
you just have
undeniable.
characters doing things, and like when the girl's making coffee, they literally
One
show
by
her.
one, each spoon, and it's like
Yes, it's like,
two
why are
little
we watching
tiny.
this? What is this doing for
I did
anything right
actually.
now?
That's actually hilarious that you remember that about
Yes,
it. Because I was
and
watching
then
that, I did think to myself, I was like, they're literally going to show every single moment, like cupboard by cupboard. I'm
it's
like,
so
what?
bad. I know,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it, and then
yeah. I
the
think
whole
it's
snake thing.
oh, the snake. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it's interesting because it sounds like I kind of do have quite similar thoughts to you on that original film. That the things that you don't like about it, I actually do completely agree with you. I wouldn't try and argue against those
yeah,
and say that's good things. I think I think just something about the whole thing overall, because it's still fun to watch.
mm,
I think it earns a few more points for me. It just, I think,
gotcha.
as I say, there's something about the combination of the small things about the film that do work. There is a charm to it, and maybe it is just because of nostalgia around that score and knowing what came after. I mean, even like this, like talking to you now on the stream about Friday. I love discussing these movies with people. So
Mm,
like, and the fact it's a whole franchise and it's a whole world and there's loads to chat about with it. Like the whole thing for me makes it feel more than it actually is. Like if I just sat and watched that original film in isolation and
yeah,
nobody knew what Friday the 13th was and there was no sequels, that was it, I probably wouldn't really care for it.
right.
I think I'm too wrapped up in like the whole world of it where I kind of enjoy that. So maybe I have more fun with the film for that reason.
Yeah.
Because I don't actually disagree with you on any of the kind of points that you make against it.
Well, and some people, going back to like the subjective experience thing, some people can, they can recognize everything I'm saying. And they might agree with it, and it just doesn't bother them as much, and that's totally fine.
Yeah,
And the things that I liked, they might love about the film. That could bring it up. So I get it, but I just find it odd, because I've heard Friday fans try to defend the original actually being a legitimate good film. And I'm like,
Yeah.
are you watching the same movie that I'm watching? Like,
Yeah.
it's one thing if you just say, I like it. I like it for certain reasons. I like the nostalgia or I like the setting or the kills or whatever. Okay, cool. But oh man,
Yeah.
it's yeah,
Yeah.
there are things in it that are just whew.
I mean, you know what I was saying earlier about how I think there's certain types, if we're talking specifically about horror, I think there's certain types of movies that people naturally go apprehensively into or negatively to, like a
Mhm.
remake. If they feel anything cynical, trying to rip it off, anything like that, people go in wanting to hate and they have to be
Right.
proven wrong the other way. And I think actually the opposite thing happens with originals, where people are like, I've decided it's brilliant, I've decided it's
Mm,
good, and now, unless the film really offends me, I'm going to kind of stand by that.
right.
And I think people are very defensive about certain movies that I'm like, yeah, it's the original, but there's still things about it that weren't
Right.
perfect, you know. And obviously, Friday, because it does have so many flaws, like as I was saying with the comparison to the other originals, like Elm Street and Halloween, like those big three original slashers of the time, Halloween and Elm Street definitely are less flawed films. I think
Oh, for sure.
objectively on any level, like Elm Street's got its problems, but if you look at them, I think they're better films. They're better made films.
Absolutely.
So they're easier to kind of defend. Like I love Elm Street, but I can look at it and go, there's a couple of little things, but it's
Sure.
easier to defend because it's a better film. But I still think some people kind of hold on to that thing where they want the film to be good. They're ready to praise the film. Whereas something
Mhm.
like the remake, people go in like, nope, don't want to see a remake of a franchise I
Right.
love. They don't want a lot of people don't like modern kind of styling and stuff like that put on an old franchise. So people go in wanting to hate, and I think the opposite is true for
Yeah.
sometimes for the originals.
Um, Dressel brought up a good point. He says there's one flaw from the remake I didn't like, and that's Jason Voorhees holding someone hostage. That's the only flaw I didn't like, and it felt like supernatural with Sam Winchester. I think and that's a valid point. I think anyone who has feels that way about the remake, fair game, because it is very uncharacteristic of Jason to do that, you know. However, I will say the caveat I would say to that is we're given a reason why Jason would do that. And the reason he would do that was because she looks like his mother. We see the picture of the girl, or see a picture of Jason's mom in the little key thing, and it looks a lot like this girl that he discovers. So she looks like his mom. We know that Jason has mommy issues, so he keeps her as like a trophy. Now we're never given a reason like what exactly was his goal. Like, was he just going to keep her there till she died? Like, was he like going to feed her? Like, we don't really know what exactly
Mm.
he was going to do there, but it does at least make sense knowing the character of Jason, why he would take someone that looks like his mother and kidnap them, because obviously he's got mommy issues. But I still don't think it. I don't think it's
Yeah,
obviously they had to get from point A to point B. So they had to tie it in for,
yeah.
the story's sake. But yeah, I think that's a fair criticism
I
of
think
the
the thing's
remake.
quite interesting about it as well is I know the director, he said something he didn't like about his original and some other things about horror films that he thought in general, which was a problem, is that they often created like a sympathy within the killer and they kind of
Mm,
wanted it to be clear with Jason that he was a villain. But then they
mhm.
kind of go against that because
Yeah,
obviously his motivations for Jason keeping the girl there are emotional to him.
right.
So it's like they kind of create like almost like a vulnerability in the character. And it kind of goes against what he was saying about keeping
Yeah,
him as this killing machine. You don't know the motive. We want to keep him mysterious. So I kind of get it from that angle. If you want to just find him like scary, full on, you don't understand the motive.
right.
They kind of take that away because you say he's got these kind of issues that have led him to kidnap and like nurture somebody in his
Yeah,
caves and stuff, which I think is unusual. But and I kind of do agree with that. But I do, like you were saying, I think it kind of creates an interesting reason that to
Yeah.
kind of, flesh out the story of the brother looking for her and doing something a little bit different. Like if there
Right.
was some kind of freaky supernatural guy with all these issues killing people in the woods, him kidnapping a woman and keeping her, that to
Mm.
me doesn't seem that odd, like within
Right.
context of what he's already been doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
And like obviously we know like Jason isn't all there mentally. So, it
yeah,
also makes sense that he would do something like
yeah.
irrational like that.
Because he's meant to
Um
be like childlike, isn't he? In some
yeah,
ways, meant to almost be like he could become attached to something
right.
over something small. So they could explain it away by him like he's just suddenly had this attachment to this girl because it's reminded of something.
Right.
Again, I don't think that's completely outside of realms of
No.
what you could explain within the character.
Yeah, I think it's a valid criticism. If anyone says I don't like that decision, or it probably could have been written better, but for me it kind of goes back to the what I was saying earlier, how I can overlook certain flaws with a movie if I'm invested with the characters and story, and because
Yeah,
I'm on board with the story and with these characters. Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I'm not really that bothered by it because I can forgive it. I can overlook it because I'm invested with the characters and stories. So,
yeah,
where the difference with my criticism, my harsh criticisms with the original is that, again, I don't care about these characters. I'm not invested with this story. So the flaws stand out. They carry a lot more weight to them
yeah.
because it doesn't engage me at all. So,
Yeah,
but
I think you
that's
are right. I think
fair.
that kind of problem was like highlighted to me. The other day I was watching I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I was thinking that where that's a very flawed
Mm,
movie, but because the characters are quite good and they find interesting ways to invest you in them and keep you engaged, you're easily able to overlook the
right.
more objective flaws, within the writing and all that. Because there's loads of problems with that film. But okay,
Yeah.
if you're invested from the start, it's easy to kind of let those things wash by you, and you'll
Yeah.
notice them on repeat viewings. Whereas Friday, it doesn't have that like instant thing that kind of hooks you onto a character and makes you root for somebody. So you're already like thinking like, oh, it's then you start noticing other problems,
Right.
and that's an issue. And obviously in the sequels, they obviously did find ways to fix that because they did
Mm,
give you more character motivation, and they did add little extra bits into the story to just kind of fix those problems.
yeah,
Um,
for
you
sure.
know,
I think that I mean, and look, no film is like perfect. Like if you look hard enough, you can find something to critique about any movie. For me, it's not a matter of is this movie completely 100% objectively perfect with not a single little minor issue. It comes back to the experience. Is
yeah,
it well made, and what is my experience with the film? If there's nothing in it that really bothers me, then it's subjectively a perfect film.
yeah,
If because perfection can be subjective, not only objective. Like you can say a film is subjectively perfect. That doesn't mean the film is without any flaws. It just means subjectively in your experience, there's not really anything that bothers you with the film. You
yeah.
basically you can get on board with everything. So
That's a
it's
great way of saying it. It's like
yeah,
there's nothing there that bothers you. The problems don't bother you versus the
right,
ones that do. That's the better
right.
way to say it. Because as you say,
Yeah,
if you look hard enough, there's something wrong with every film to some extent.
exactly.
If you
You
look at it
know,
in that sense.
I mean, I know Brian's not on the stream, so I can kind of rib him here. But even like The Dark Knight, which was my favorite film for 14 years. It's not a
Still,
perfect film.
not
Sorry,
perfect.
Brian. It's not a perfect film.
It's
it's
true,
it's
yeah,
it's flawed in certain areas, but they
yeah,
don't bother me like
yeah.
this. So it's
But
it's still a
I'm guessing with Friday just was that level where for you it's tipped over into actually there's so many things that you can't
yes,
ignore anymore that
right,
make it a problem.
exactly,
It's
exactly.
so interesting with Friday because I think I can kind of see it both ways because I am
Mhm.
very in the middle. I mean, I give it 3 out of 5. Like when I rated it again yesterday on my letterbox, I gave it a 3 out of 5.
Mm.
And I feel like I'm happy. Like 3 out of 5 is where like I enjoyed the movie. I'm happy it's there, but
Yeah,
it's still a very flawed film. That's basically
right.
where I sit with it.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult it's more and more difficult to review a movie like that because,
Mhm.
like I've been saying, it's the legacy it kind of carries with it, make it feel like a bigger movie than it actually is. And
Right.
there's certain things about it that just kind of tick my boxes, I guess, in a way that
Yeah.
I can still enjoy it. I can still,
Right.
I will watch that movie again. I know I'll
Mhm.
watch it again at some point.
Yeah.
So I have to give it that. But yeah, definitely looking at it, I noticed more flaws I think than I ever had before, because I've probably only seen it 3 times in my life before this.
Mm.
So I haven't seen it that many times. It was enough to me to kind of watch
Right.
it now. Oh,
Yeah.
there's some stuff in there.
Yeah.
you know,
No, I'm totally cool with someone like, a 3-star rating. Someone say, you know what, I like the film. I'm not defending it as being a masterpiece or a great film, but subjectively, it passes. It passes
yeah,
for me. I can respect that because there's movies like that for me where, yeah, it's a bad film. I can see the flaws, but I don't know. I have fun with it. I like it.
yeah,
So I'm the same way
yeah.
with certain movies. Um,
Yeah. I think one thing as well that I did, I mean, obviously back then, it was kind of, because it was really ripping off Halloween, wasn't it? It was kind of
mhm,
known to be a more of a rip off of Halloween. And I
yeah,
think one of the things that people have remembered it for is the fact that obviously they had Tom Savini working on all of the FX and stuff. So it's like, I think, guess because at the time I don't remember a film before that having kills like that as well. So when you talk about slasher films and like gnarly kills, creative ways of people dying and to killers and stuff, like that stuff really was done first, like in that
yeah,
kind of way, I think there. So I think there is things to say about it that were, I guess, technically groundbreaking in a sense.
yeah,
If we're not, just it's probably a bit of a stretch to say groundbreaking, but there are definitely
right.
things there that other movies took from that and then
Sure.
went on to use afterwards. So
That's speaking of kills, that brings me into the kills. So the kills between the original and the remake, which collectively do you think were better? And then what is your favorite kill from both?
it's a good question. So I'm actually not convinced of which one I prefer out of the original and the remake, into which does have the better kills, because I
Okay.
do like something about the way the original ones are staged and edited
Mhm.
are obviously much clunkier,
Sure.
like the way they're led up to. But like to me, like the Kevin Bacon one, I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Like effects wise, it's pretty gnarly, even by now standards.
Mhm.
And I just tried to imagine watching that, but like the first time before I knew that was coming. It's pretty good. Whereas I think obviously, they're well staged in the remake, but I don't think they have that staying power because they're kind of more predictable, I guess. You know when they're coming. I think the one, like I said, with Danielle Panabaker, it's not very like impressive just from like a standout kill. I think just from the element of surprise and the way they handle that is really well done, where you genuinely believe she's going to
Mhm.
escape and she
Mhm.
doesn't. So that's definitely my favorite kill from that, because it does kind of subvert the expectations. But I think something about the effects on that first film, they just have something a bit odd about them. And obviously, Savini was a bit of a master with that. So
Sure.
for some reason, those ones stick in my mind a little bit more, even
Yeah.
though I recognize they're not kind of staged as well. But the Kevin Bacon, I know it is the classic, but I think it
Yes.
is good. It is
Yeah, that
good.
that would be my favorite of the original. And the remake, I really don't think there's a bad kill in the remake. Like all of them are pretty good. I mean, I love
There's
the
not a bad
axe.
one. There's not a bad. I will agree with
No,
that. There's not a bad one.
I love the axe, the tomahawk through the guy's back. That was gnarly, dude.
Yeah, and the way he's kind of
Obviously,
still alive, and they realize they
yes.
can't go out to help him, and it's like, oh, that's actually pretty dark.
Yes.
That's actually dark.
That's so good. I love it. I love the obviously Trent's kill, picking him up and slamming him through the spike on the car. That
Absolutely
was good.
gruesome.
The Pan Baker one, like you said, just because it comes out of nowhere, you're like, oh
Yeah,
shoot. The
yeah,
sleeping
so
bag
so good.
kill in the opening, like that's a great kill.
Do you know
Um,
this? That is. I think the opening. I think, so obviously the kills are kind of central to that opening because of how
yeah,
quickly everyone is dispatched in that opening
right.
scene. But I do think the intro scene is really good. It's
So
a
good.
really, like,
It
the fact is
really
like
is.
that all happens, and then it's like Friday the 13th, like the
Yeah,
credits come
yeah,
on. You're
yeah.
like, man, that's just the opener.
I
What?
know.
Like it's like a,
Yeah.
it's like a Friday the 13th short film, isn't it?
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
is.
and it's
That I mean,
really good.
it
It's
could be
really
like the
good.
best, probably the best 15 minutes of any Friday the 13th on as far as feature film wise.
I could
Um,
definitely agree with that. Definitely
it's
agree
so
with that.
good.
It's really
Um,
mad.
but I know let's see, Russell said, and I'd probably agree with him. His says his favorite kill is the bow and arrow kill from 2009. If I had to pick one, I would probably go with that one and two, Russell, just because again, it comes out of nowhere. I mean, the guy's on
It
a
does.
boat out in the lake and then
Yeah, yeah, that one
arrow
'cause they
through the
give you no
skull.
yeah, because you literally like, you don't see Jason wandering there
No.
before it happens, so he just turns, sees the
Yeah.
girl fall into the water, and then it happens.
Yes. And
Oh,
you're just
what's
like,
going
whoa.
on? See, I
And
think that's
because
a good moment. I think that's a great moment because obviously the surprise and the way it looks is really well done. I think
yeah.
the only reason I don't have that higher is like I still feel to some extent like with Jason carrying a bow and arrow, like it kind of makes me feel like what has he been training archery? Like what's to do with this? I find
Yeah.
if a big guy is walking around with a big machete taking people out, I'm like I can get on board with that. But I think when they've got accurate archery skills, I
Yeah.
feel a bit like, yeah.
Archery, archery.
Do you know?
Yeah.
It's like it's quite a far way out. Like it's got to be pretty good on a moving boat. But
Right.
it's like that starts making me ask questions, which is probably
Yeah.
why I prefer the ones where it's just more like spur of the moment, brutal, the way someone would just react and just kill him with a
Yeah.
machete. Like that, those I guess those ones kind of work more for me. I guess you get away with slightly more elaborate things like the Kevin Bacon, like even though as you say,
Mm.
like could the woman push it through, but even the way that stays, like the idea that all that time she was
Right.
under the bed and he's
Yes.
been there that whole time, the body on the top bunk, her under
Right.
it, and then he's just sitting there enjoying his smoke, you know, thinking he's having a nice evening, and then suddenly, and he just that kind of look of shock on his face, he doesn't scream,
Yeah.
just pure shock. I'm
Really
like,
good.
it's quite that to me is really effective. I think even now, I think that's a great scene.
Yeah. I see one thing I liked about the bow and arrow kill was what makes it more frightening is the fact that you're not even safe on a boat. Like from that, Jason, like you could even be on the lake and you're still in the danger zone. He could still get your ass.
Yeah,
And what to me, I guess how I rationalize it is, his mom what died when he was, a kid, 9, 10 or whatever. He was obviously forced to live off the land. And so he had to get good at something, some way to defend himself. And if he's a child in his mind mentally, children find something that they like and get good at, and they'll just keep, doing
yeah.
it. So to me, I guess I kind of see it as maybe Jason, because I'm sure there's probably an archery thing there at the camp for kids to use. So he probably just started using that and figured out, hey, if I keep using this, I could get good at it. I might be trying to get too much into the psychology of it, but
No, but I mean, you could. I mean, yeah. I mean, you could argue that, as you say, because it was a camp, and like archery is
mm,
something you would do at camp. So you guess there could have been a thing like as a
yeah,
kid he loved his archery or something
right,
like
yeah,
that. So
yeah.
it's like,
You
and then he
never know.
carried on doing it. And it's, yeah.
You never know what Jason
I
is
think
into.
no, no. I think it's all you could make that work. Definitely, I think it's just
Yeah,
naturally when you have a killer like Jason's this kind of hulking,
right.
almost demonic, like big guy. He's kind of childlike in his way. If there's like, I just like those kind of like animalistic kind of kills. He's got a big machete that he's found, crafted, whatever, and he just
Yeah.
uses that to take people out. Just instantly, quickly dispatches them, and like I think it's something about like technical skills that I
Mm,
get. That's why I guess it's naturally a bit jarring to me. I think,
I
but
gotcha.
it's good. I mean, it's a good scene. It's definitely a
Yeah,
good scene.
yeah.
But
And I like that they're able to make a number of the kills come out of nowhere. Those are the ones that always get you because you're just like, whoa,
yeah, yeah,
I
definitely.
like when I can't see something coming or read something coming. But
Yeah.
Russell saying Kevin Bacon kill was good, so iconic. I agree. But there is a kill in the original. Every time I see it, I just laugh because it's so dumb. The
Wait,
when
I'm gonna try. I'm trying to think which one it will be. I'm trying to think which one you're
it's
gonna
it's
say.
it's like the worst kill. Like it's so poorly done and executed.
I don't know if one's standing out to me that I think is obviously the really. Oh, I'm trying to think.
It's more so in the performance, but it's the
I
scene where
guess there's the one with the axe. You're thinking of the
yeah,
axe device where she's yeah,
dude, it's so bad
where she's like so
because
like
yeah,
just like what?
yes, it's so bad,
I
dude.
have to admit,
Every
I did.
time I
It was funny.
laugh so hard because
I
she's
watched it
like
when I watched
Pamela's
that
like there
scene.
with the axe. She brings it up and she's holding it for like 5 seconds,
Ages.
and the girl just goes, "Ah!"
Yeah. And it's like
like
the way she slowly looks up. It's like,
yeah,
what?
and then she'll like close her eyes and she just stands there. I'm like, clearly run. Like if she's holding
No,
the axe like 5 seconds, you have time to dart, and she just stands there
do
like,
something. Yeah,
"Ah!"
yeah.
It's
It's
so
so
bad.
it's so funny because when I watched it
Ugh.
last night, I actually managed to persuade my girlfriend to sit up and watch it with
Oh
me.
yeah?
She was like, "Please no." I was like, "Come on, you're gonna love it." She was like, "No, I'm not." And she did laugh in that scene when that happened,
Yes.
and it did say
Yes,
she's
it's
gonna love
so
that you
funny,
agree
dude.
with her. She was like,
Yeah.
"That is ridiculous." She did actually comment on that
Dude,
scene.
it's
And
so poorly done.
I think it's with like some bad directing and like early films like that, where you're like, that just simply wouldn't happen like that. Whereas
No.
you say in like the remake, the second anybody's attacked, they react the way you expect the
Yes,
person to
genuine
react.
reaction, yeah.
Yeah, like in the girls, but like the final shot before it goes to the credits in the remake, where the sister is like pushing herself along the ground backwards, and
Right.
Jason's about to take her out. It's like
Yes.
that to me looks real, where like you've got the adrenaline, you're just trying to get away, but you haven't got it in you to stand up yet. That
Right.
rings so true. Like that rings really true.
Absolutely.
Whereas
Yeah,
as you
like
say,
the
when you've got this like extended scene of not really reacting, it's just bizarre, you know?
yes. It's so weird, yeah, because like you said in the remake, the natural reaction would be to crawl back, to get away from the killer, create space. No one, I don't care who you are, nobody is going to just stand there with an
Yeah.
axe holding up in the air for 5 seconds, close their
Yeah.
eyes, and just go,
and
"Eh." It's just
it's
let
because
the
they're
axe
and obviously they're not staged well as well, because obviously they obviously didn't have the budget to find a way to
right.
show it happening. So it's like
Sure.
she's doing that, cut away, get Tom Savini in with his paintbrush,
Yeah,
do his
yeah.
work, and then boom, you've got this axe in the face. Which
It's
I mean, the effect looks good. The effect afterwards
the
looks good,
effects
but
looks good, but the
yeah,
kill
but you watch it
itself
and you're
is just
like,
like
it's,
this is so bad. Oh man, I
it's not
laugh
well
so
staged.
hard every
Yeah.
time at that scene.
Yeah,
But
they didn't find a way to like, and actually the other one as well, which I think is not particular, which is again a bit, almost a bit laughable. I think the final moment where where Alice beheads,
oh right.
and it's like they put it in like slow motion. It's like 80s slow
Yeah.
motion, where it's like
Yeah.
frame by frame, and you know she's about to die. It's just like,
Right. And
yeah,
then
I
her
don't like
hands afterwards, she's just like
that.
grabbing like she's like, "What are you grabbing at?" Like your head is
Yeah.
clearly off your body and you're just like grabbing at like, "What? What are we doing?
And it's the
What are we
fact it's
trying
in
to grab?"
slow motion, so it just goes
Yeah.
on for an uncomfortable amount of
Yes.
time.
You're like, "Okay, we get it. Move
Oh,
on."
yeah,
Yeah.
that is a bit laughable. I think the fact that I was watching it with my girlfriend and she was kind of laughing at some of those moments, I
Yeah.
was like, "Ah, it is a bit silly, isn't it
I
now?"
mean, I guess that can add to the enjoyment though. Like if you like the film just for how cheesy and dumb it is, I get that.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there are some movies I'm like that where like I like it because of how just dumb and bad it is.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like that with Friday Part 5. Like I love
Yeah.
just how dumb the hillbilly redneck mom and
Oh,
her
and the little
daughter
hut,
is
and the
like
little yeah, with the Oh, that is bizarre. I've forgotten all about
yes,
them. Yeah,
I
yeah.
love how just
Yeah.
dumb and stupid that family is, and, like, it's bad, but it's entertainingly bad.
Yeah. I think
So,
it's when the
yeah.
film's aware of it. Like when a film is
Yes.
silly and it knows it's been put there, it's when it looks like it's put there to be to take itself seriously,
Right.
and you get those moments that then it becomes weird. Do you know
Yes,
what I
and
mean?
that
It's almost
yeah,
like how Child's Play, like a lot of the Child's Play films, I feel like are like this, where they're so ridiculous and hilarious some moments, but you know that they directed it and
right.
wrote it in a way that's like this is meant to be that way. Whereas the original Friday, I'm like, they probably wanted that to be dead serious. They
Yeah.
imagined that was dead serious.
Yeah, that's the
You know?
thing, like, they have like, you could watch interviews with, like, you know, Cunningham and them, like, they were trying to make a horror film, but
Mm.
it's just not scary. It's dumb. And then the reveal, like, I'm sorry, but Pamela Vor a 55-year-old woman, I'm not afraid of her. Like, she's just not intimidating. But also what doesn't make any sense is why she doesn't talk until the
For
reveal. Like
yeah, yeah,
like,
'cause that
she's
it's so
there's a
true when you
scene with
know
the
what's happened. Yeah,
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 like, the
oh.
guy comes up to her and he's like, "Oh, hi, what are you doing out here?" No, she's not
No,
talking, nothing. She picks up the girl in the Jeep. She's not
that's what I
talking
was
to
gonna say
her
about
at
Annie
all.
when she picks her up, and I'm like, she's just talking one way, and I assume this woman's just looking at her like
Yeah, yeah. I know, it's like,
yeah.
why is she not talking? And then why does she all of a sudden just decide to talk to Alice, you know? It just makes no
It
sense.
retrospectively makes no sense.
No,
Like,
no.
as if she's about even when she's about to kill the first girl, so the fact that she's talking to her and she's not answering, you're like, "Well, how did that play out then? That's
Right.
very odd." Yeah.
Exactly, and there's a bad cut in there too, where they give you a POV shot of the killer in the middle of the woods watching these young adults, and then it cuts to Pamela in the Jeep picking up the girl, and it's like, but
Yeah,
she was
but she
just standing in the middle of the camp 2 frames ago,
yeah.
and now
Yeah,
she's
that
picking up the
well, do you
girl.
know this is really interesting. I think the way some people have tried to explain it, I don't know if the filmmakers have ever confirmed this, but what they said, I think, is that the filmmakers are trying to put POV of other people as well within the camp to sometimes like throw you off a bit. So where sometimes it's POV and it's actually not Pamela. So I think, yeah, you're right. It's bad filmmaking because from our
Uh,
perspective, the POV should have been like kept
right,
for Pamela
that
because it lets
signifies
us
the
know.
killer. Right,
Exactly, yeah. And I think they claim, or people defending it kind of claim that actually what they were trying to do is put it in the perspective of people there. So it's like keeping us on our toes, like we're watching
yeah,
POV, but is it actually her? Or
right.
is it the guy in the cab? But yeah, you're right. Like it's obviously filmed in a way to make us think it's the killer, but then they're looking at Pamela. So it's like,
Yeah,
what, that's just a camera now, is it? Who is
right.
that?
Right, yeah, it doesn't make sense when you're watching it because you're like, "You were in the woods 2 seconds ago, now you're in your Jeep outside of camp picking up a random girl and
Yeah.
taking it." Yeah, it was
It
bad
just,
editing. The editing is
yeah.
just really
And
bad
as
in
you
that
say, it's
film.
a number of things that you can imagine the first time through, you don't notice those problems. And once you
Right.
see the reveal, it actually opens up a
Yes, a lot
multitude of
more.
problems set up in
Yeah,
the beginning of the film. Yeah. It's
absolutely.
it is amazing. It is amazing how successful it was. When you look at like a lot of the flaws with I mean, actually,
Mhm.
one interesting thing I kind of forgot to mention earlier, which I wanted to mention was I didn't realize this, but you've seen The Burning, haven't you? I assume you've
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you've seen The
Really enjoy
Burning.
that one.
It's great slasher movie, and
Yeah.
apparently that was like the idea for that, and like the film was basically made before
Mhm.
Friday. It just got stuck in production, I think, because of financial issues and stuff. But that
Yeah,
would have been like the OG
right.
camp slasher. And if you watch
Released
that
the same year. It's
released the same
a
year,
much better film in my opinion.
and
Like,
it's a much better film. It's a much
yeah.
better film, and I just think like Friday the 13th had so many lucky things going for it. Like it had a really, really good name, like a very
Mhm.
memorable name.
Right,
Like Friday the
right.
13th just sounds
Friday the
cool. It's just
13th. Yeah.
it's a cool name. They had the kind of the crazy reveal of Pam, like, and then the whole lore around Jason. Like they had a few things that obviously stick with people that
Right.
obviously made it big. But The Burning, when you watch
Yeah.
that, that holds up in my opinion. I think that's a
Oh,
genuinely good
absolutely.
film. And it's a
Yeah.
camp slasher film. So it's like that really should have been the one to
Yes.
make it, you know, to
Agreed.
the
I thoroughly enjoyed The Burning. I like that one a lot. It's definitely one of my
right film.
favorite, maybe my favorite camp horror film. I mean, I would take the Friday remake over The Burning, but that's part of the Friday franchise. But outside of like the
Yeah,
franchise, The Burning maybe my favorite camp horror film. I also like
it might be my
Mad.
favorite. It might actually be my favorite. I love
Have you
it.
seen Madman?
I haven't seen Madman, no.
That one is good. That one would compete with The Burning, for camp favorite camp horror film.
Camp set horror film, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I've
but
never seen that one before. Is it an eight? Is it an 80s?
80s, yep,
It is
80s. I
80s,
think
yeah.
it's around that same time, 80, I think maybe 81, 80,
Oh,
81 around that
interesting.
time.
Interesting. I'll
But
put that on my watch list. You know, I've been watching lots of my
yeah,
80s horror before we do our big list
yeah, I'm
in
excited for that.
August. But
Yeah,
Burning, I will be talking about on that one a bit because that is one that
yeah,
I do very much like. But I'll put
that's a
that
good one.
on my watch list.
Yeah, Madman. So lastly, as far as just comparing and contrasting Final Girls, what compare Alice for with the original with I guess it's technically a brother and sister. They're both kind of final girl and guy in the
Yeah.
remake. Which do you prefer? Which did you like? And what were your thoughts overall of the final girls?
Yeah, I mean, I love, you know, the kind of the concept of the final girl throughout the horror history. I
Hmm.
love. I think that's been a great thing. You know, that a lot of movies did it really well. I think Friday obviously probably was one of the, obviously after Halloween was one of the first to kind of keep up with that trend of
Right.
always having a final girl. And I obviously in this comparison here, I think the couple because they're done. There's not the couple, the brother and sister, sorry,
Hmm.
because they're done so much better. That's
Yeah.
kind of the thing that stands out to me. But I guess, as you say, it's not really a true final girl in that sense, where it's the one girl. I guess the sister is in a sense because she's the one that starts in the
Yeah.
film
You're
and
right.
is the one that kind of
She
overcomes and
lasts
makes
to
it
the
out
end.
at the end. And for obviously the fact that her story is well written, better
Mhm.
written. I think she's a very good actress as well. I think the way it's
Yeah,
handled
I
is
do
really
too.
good. And I like as well that they actually did have like, even though it's such a dark film, there is that little bit of hope. And that's the one thing I wanted to say about the remake that I don't like is that little sequel setup they did at the end. That
Oh,
is,
right.
and obviously they love to do that in Friday films to keep them going. But I think after that journey that the brother and sister had been on, and the way they get out of that, I'm like,
Yeah.
that felt a bit. I didn't
Yeah.
like that. Whereas in the original, them doing Jason coming up, it kind of worked. But I just
Yeah.
felt like what the brother and sister have been through, it kind of hurt their story a bit because I think her arc and character was great.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah, I no, I agree. That's the one kind of the one thing that holds the remake back from being like a 5 for a horror film. I think I have it like a 4, 4.5, but it's that
yeah.
ending that I'm like, ugh. It kind of had the
Ah,
same issue like the
cheap
original
in it.
Nightmare, where it's like the
Yeah.
rest of the film is so good, and then the ending, you're just like,
Oh,
man, I wanted to give you a 5 out of 5, but
yeah.
I just
Yeah.
that ending
It's
just
like a good film, and that the last image you're left with
yeah,
is that, and
man.
it's like, why?
Yeah,
It
it's
just feels
upsetting.
cheap. It feels cheap as well.
Yes,
You
yeah,
know,
it
it
does,
feels
and just
cheap.
unnecessary, it's like you
Yeah.
could cut it and just end it on a positive note, but,
Yeah, because it's
um
an easy way to get a sequel. Like
yeah,
the fact, as we said, the fact, like how many ways did they bring? I mean, they one of them. That was it. Jason Lives. They literally resurrect him like Frankenstein.
yes,
There's all there's
so many
always a
ways.
way you can bring this guy back. So you don't need to
Exactly.
have that to be like, oh, there's maybe going to be a
Right.
sequel. And the fact that the whole thing got cancelled anyway, it's like let
Yeah,
the film
yeah,
just work in and
right.
of itself. And I
Yeah,
feel like it's a real shame they had to do that. Um,
agreed.
but on the
Um,
final girl front, just to cap off on that, on the
yeah,
final girl bit, I think the original, I'm not. There's not a lot to really say, I don't think, about Alice because number one, she's not the finest actress, and I don't think you ever get the sense throughout the movie that she's the girl we're following. It
right.
almost to me feels like the dominoes are falling, and then she's there left, and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
I guess we're kind of following her now. But like watching it again, I remembered that she was the kind of the last girl, the one that kills
right,
Pamela. But like, there's no real point through the film where she feels like the core, like the person where, like, in obviously Halloween Elm Street, who you're
right.
rooting for, who's going to be the final girl, which
It's
I like
Nancy, it's
having that.
Lori. Yeah,
Joy, you know straight away, even if it's not in your face, there's subtle things that let you know that's the character we're following. And then
right.
finally, that just like doesn't exist.
No.
It's just not
No,
there. You know?
and that's the thing, like, if this is supposed to be the girl we're pulling for, the final girl, give us a reason to pull for her,
Yeah,
like, Alice, I don't really have a reason. I mean, she's a fighter, I guess, kind of in the end, but who's she fighting? She's fighting a 55-year-old woman. Like, come on, she's not Lori going up against Michael. She's not
no.
Nancy going up against Freddy. She's not, what's her name going up against Ghostface?
Oh, Sydney
Yeah,
Prescott. Yeah,
Sydney,
exactly.
Sydney.
Yeah, yeah,
She's not Sigourney
yeah,
Weaver going up against
yeah.
a xenomorph. Like, She's going up
And
against a
even like, and
55-year-old
they don't
lady.
even make the, they don't even like kind of not say redeem her, 'cause she hasn't done anything wrong, obviously, but like they don't make you kind of really root for her in the
No.
end because she's so kind of stupid with the way she reacts to it. Like she kind of like knocks her down, like literally like 3 or 4 times. Like the way that final scene's played out, like she's kind of knocked down a number of
Yeah.
times. I'm like, please
Yeah.
just finish this. She's like,
Yes.
please. And it's like,
Yes.
so at the end of it, it's almost like she almost just by luck kind of
Right.
finally gets
Yeah,
out at
it
the end.
it really was just kind of by luck, and it wasn't like you said, it wasn't her story, so we're not invested with her from start to finish. She just
Yeah.
happens to be the last survivor, whereas, like,
Yeah,
Lori, Nancy, Sydney, Weaver, like, it's their journey, like, we're with
yeah,
them all the way through,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and
They
all of
don't
those.
always have to be strong, do they? They don't
No.
always have to be strong. Like at the end, like Sydney, especially, like obviously she starts off quite a scared and anxious person. It's
Mhm.
kind of her journey of kind of overcoming and standing up to that in a way. And so they
Right.
don't have to be really strong all the way through. It's not even that, but it's like there's nothing there that really kind of connects you with Alice, lets you know, like lets us know we should be caring about this person. And they don't even find a really powerful way in the end to kind of make it come around that you actually kind of really root for her. It's almost like non-existent in a
Right.
way.
Yeah. What's up,
Yeah.
Sean? He says Friday the 13th debate. Ask Brian Lomax this. He will tell you 2009 remake Descent slasher original pile of crap. Brian has a lot of hot takes. We'll
He
say
does.
that. But
To be
Russell
fair, I
also
think. Oh no, he's saying
confirming that
Madman. Yeah.
Madman is good. So there's another recommendation. Jerry also saying absolutely on that one. So yeah, definitely check out Madman. Uh, good film. But
I mean, I think interestingly, as a like, I think we're actually probably in quite with the compare between the two, we are quite a bit in agreement.
mhm,
I think about and even with Brian, because obviously Brian, I think's thoughts are quite he resonates with you quite a lot, doesn't he?
yeah,
With this, because he really, I know, really doesn't like that original, and likes the remake. And I like the remake more. Like
yeah,
I'm with you on the remake. I guess to me, despite the ridiculous amount of flaws that we've kind of gone over with the original,
yeah,
I still think there's some charm there. There's still some
right.
charm there. There's
And
something that lets me enjoy it, whether
yeah,
it is just because it's part of this bigger thing that may be, but I
right.
can't help but come away and be like, it's fun. It's like what do you have it rated? I think like 1.5, don't you?
Yeah, like a
Like
one
one
and
one.
a half. Yeah,
I think for me, when I've rated films that, it's usually where I'm actively like, oh, I really didn't like that. Like there was something
right.
about that that really put me off. And I guess I
Exactly.
don't have that sort of feeling about like I was comparing it earlier to Children of the Corn that I watched recently,
Mhm.
and I came away
Oh,
like, whoa, that was bad.
that's a
Whoa,
bad
that was
that's a bad watch. Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of a bit embarrassing in sports. It's
Yeah.
really badly done. I came away and I was like, that does not work at all. It
No.
really doesn't work. So like I don't get that same feeling with Friday. It's like talking about it with you and like
Mhm.
analyzing each bit. I can be like, yeah, there's so many problems, such a flawed film. But I just
Right.
when I come away from it, when the credits roll, I don't have that sense that I just watched a terrible film, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, no, and that's a very fair, like, an opinion like yours I can respect because it's not like there's a difference between simply saying I like the film. I acknowledge the flaws, but I like the film. And then trying to defend a clearly very flawed film as being a good film. Like and that's what irritates me with a lot of Friday fans. Not all Friday fans are like this, but I have talked with a lot of Friday fans who will try to defend the original as being like a legitimately great film or better than the remake. And I'm just like, were
Yeah.
you on all the drugs when you watched this thing? Like, what? How?
Absolutely.
Just say that you like it. There's nothing wrong with simply
Nothing
saying,
wrong with
"Yeah, I
that,
like the film,"
yeah.
but don't then like dig a hole. Don't dig your own hole by then trying to defend something that's clearly flawed as
Yeah.
being good, and then criticize someone for pointing out all those flaws in a very flawed film and act like
Yeah.
they're just hating the film. No, I'm just pointing out all the flaws. And I'm saying
Yeah.
that because I don't invest with the characters or story, all these flaws have carry a lot more weight in my viewing experience for that reason. But
Yeah,
uh
I think we particularly noticed that with the Friday remake, I think it kind of goes the other way to that, where I think people are so critical of it and almost aren't
Yes.
open to maybe thinking it's a good film. Like I've seen
Yeah.
that a lot more, I think, with because as I say, a lot of people have a fondness for even the sequel sometimes over that original, but the remake, I see people going so hard on, and
Oh
to
my
me,
goodness.
I'm like, as a horror fan, if you're a horror fan, you like horror
Yeah.
movies, you like Friday the 13th, the idea that like you'd watch the remake and come away and just be like, that's a terrible film. I'm
Yeah.
like, really? Is it?
Yeah.
I
I'm like,
don't really
no.
unless you really don't like horror, I don't really understand
I
that.
I do
So
not get it. Like, I've seen multiple other YouTubers on, rank the Friday movies, and I've seen multiple lists where the original is above the remake, and I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
"How?" Like, what
I've
like, if
sometimes seen like the remake below stuff like Jason Goes to Hell and like
oh,
Takes Manhattan and stuff. I'm like,
oh,
come on, come
yeah,
on. You
it's
can't watch Jason Takes Manhattan and the
no.
remake back to back and go, yeah, that remake, it was rubbish, wasn't it? It's just
Like, it's hate for the sake of hate, because it's like, if especially if you're a Friday fan, like, what about the original would possibly be better than the remake? You
yeah,
don't have Jason, and as a Jason fan, he's in the remake, he's not in the original. The
yeah,
story is better, the characters are better, the tone is better, it's much more scary and frightening and darker. Like,
yeah,
why would you not like the remake better than the
yeah,
original if you're a Friday fan?
absolutely.
It
I
just
think interestingly,
pisses
it
me.
doesn't. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. It doesn't make sense to me at all. I think the
No.
only thing that the remake should have done that would have made it even better is I think because it is nicely filmed, like in a weird
Mhm.
way, that's kind of can go against it because I think it has a
True.
slight sheen to it, and I think they could have made it look a bit like dirtier. I don't know what the word is for it, but
Yeah,
it's like made it look
grainy.
like a
Kinda
bit
like a
grainier.
Death Proof, like a Tarantino with Death
Yeah.
Proof, you
Yeah,
know?
give it that kind of like, yeah, more film quality, a bit
Yeah,
scratchier. I think that would have actually because like the Friday films have always had like a slight cheaper, sinister and
right.
seedy kind of feel about them. And I think
Yeah.
they should have added just a little bit of that because some of it when you're watching it, some of the cinematography is gorgeous on the
Very.
film. And
Yeah.
I'm like, it looks great. And I'm like, is it right that the
Yeah.
cinematography looks great in a Friday
Yeah, that's
film? Is
fair.
that
Yeah,
right?
that's very fair.
So it's kind of like
Um,
good and bad. Like I can't, people
right.
that like that and think it's better made. I'm like, well, it is.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
just is. But I'm
Yeah,
like,
for
I
sure.
can understand people that do like that slightly gnarly old low quality film that they were
That's
using for
true.
those old movies. I'm like, I kind of get the charm of that. I do
Yeah,
understand that.
I do too.
Mm.
The one other thing I would say with the Alice as the final girl, she does one of the dumbest things I've ever seen a final girl do in a horror movie. After she kills Pamela, the logical thing would do with all these dead bodies all over the camp, all your friends are dead, this psycho lady just tried to kill you. Anybody with a brain in between their skull would get the heck out of Dodge, go try to find a ride, go try to find police, law enforcement,
She
report
goes for a
this.
row at night.
She gets into a boat in the middle of the night to
Just
go rowing
into the
onto the lake
darkness.
just to fall asleep. Like, if you're that tired, go sleep in a bed. But logically, why would you not try to get to the cops or find
Yeah,
another ride?
it's the way she doesn't even like think about it. It's just like, oh,
No.
she's dead now. Right, off in my boat then. See you later.
It was like just second nature. Like, this is what you do after
Yeah,
you kill someone. You get
that
into
is
a
funny. That
boat and you
is
row
silly.
out. And it's like, what are we doing? You know? And
It's the
then
way it's
also,
so dark. It's so like because obviously the film like it's such a dark scene. She's just literally out into the pitch black, just like
yeah, it's just like,
off she
what
goes.
exactly were you gonna do? Like, we're just gonna fall asleep? Why not go do the bunks? Like, you're literally
Yeah,
on campgrounds with like 8 cabins behind you. Go find a bunk
yeah,
to sleep.
and just wait a few hours. Like the amount of things that
Yes,
could go wrong in the night. Like, wouldn't that be scary?
exactly. That's the dumbest thing to do, where no one can help you, no one can reach you out there on the lake. It just made
Yeah,
absolutely no sense. And then she wakes up, and this is just another plot hole. the cops just happened to show up, even though there's no way anyone could have contacted them
No one's
because
even
the
called. No.
no one's called, no one's contacted them. They just know to show up here, and they show up, and she's not even yelling for help. She's just there dangling her finger in the water. It's like, yell for help, lady.
That is that's so
It's
true. Actually, I didn't actually even clock that when I was watching it. That there's no point where actually anyone calls an like
no,
you think about the guy who's the guy that like runs the camp counselor. He goes off and you get a shot with him or a
but
scene
he
with
gets
him in
killed.
the cafeteria, but he gets
Yeah,
killed. But
yeah,
he doesn't even know there's anything
no,
wrong at that time. So
he
he
doesn't
just
know.
comes back. He gets killed by the entrance,
Right.
and then that's it.
There's no one that reports anything or calls the police.
Yeah,
Like, there's no way they would have known about all
no.
these killings, and yet they just show up just because, it's convenient, like,
Absolutely, yeah.
so
That is
yeah,
weird. That is actually funny. I haven't actually heard anyone say that before about the boat thing, but you are right. That is ridiculous.
it's just uh, I didn't catch that the first time, but I think maybe a second or third time I was like, why is this girl rowing out into the lake? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
after she killed this lady, like, it makes no sense at all.
Oh, it's
Oh
amazing.
man,
That is funny.
right.
I think with that stuff we've said about it, but next time I watch it, I'm just going to be laughing at all of these ridiculous things they've got
Russell
in
said
this
she
movie.
was on drugs.
I think that is
Oh, man.
maybe that's the only way they could explain
Maybe,
it.
yeah, she was on drugs. Oh,
Right,
man. But, so overall, I think you and I are probably in agreement, prefer the remake over the original. The
yeah,
original has some things going for it. I like the score. I like the setting. I think Betsy Palmer does a good job as Pamela. But again, characters mean the most to me in any film. I got to invest with the characters if I'm going to want to come back and revisit the film. And I just don't invest with the characters at all. So for me personally, this is one of the worst Friday movies. Not the worst, but it's towards the bottom for me. Where I think the Friday remake, if I was and I like, I'm a casual Friday fan. I'm not like a diehard Jason fan, but I like Friday. I like Jason. If I was a diehard Jason fan, I would look at the remake and think, dude, this is clearly the best Friday movie. So,
yeah,
but just comparing the two, I personally definitely prefer the remake. I think it's clearly the better of the two, and that would be my choice for these two.
yeah. Yep, absolutely with you on that. I think even though, as you know, as we said, I'm a little bit more forgiving, and for
Mhm.
me, if I was to rank all of that, I mean, it's gonna be quite interesting because I'm going to do. Now that I've watched the two and I had this discussion with you, I'm actually going to do a little Friday series and kind of go through the movies.
Nice.
It's always, I think the original's always sat about middle for me,
Mm,
and then the remake has been like near the top. It's never been quite my favorite, just because I really do love the final chapter. I really
that's a
like
good
the
one.
final chapter, so that's always sat a little bit higher for me.
Yeah,
But I'm kind of interested to see them like again now,
right.
having just watched kind of the original remake again. But for me, clear cut, the remake is the better film.
Agreed. Yeah,
I
part
have to
four
say
is good too. I do 2, 4, 6 in the
six.
remake.
Yeah, Jason Lives. That's a good one
Yeah,
actually.
all
Yeah,
those are
yeah.
solid.
And even some of
Um,
the others are watchable. Like I still
yeah,
think the New Blood is kind of watchable. You know.
yeah, yeah. There's the ones that are good, and then there's a few that are passable, watchable. I
Yeah.
think 3 is passable.
3. Yeah.
I do really like Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah. It's a decent
There,
film.
there's a couple that are passable, but the original's just not one of them. It's just not
Not up
one
there
of them
for
for me.
you.
But guys, if you haven't already, go check out Jack's channel. He's got great stuff over there. If you're a Nightmare or Freddy fan, he's reviewed all the Nightmare movies, done a ranking there. He's got great stuff. So go give him some love. Subscribe, liked all his stuff. We're gonna try to make this kind of a thing. So we'll be back next month. We were talking earlier, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, baby. So next month we're gonna try to do Texas Chainsaw Massacre original versus the remake. Which is better? Which do we like? Compare and contrast that one. So if you're a Texas fan, if you're a horror fan, come back next month for that one. But Jack, what else are you going to be up to on your channel? You got anything coming up for them?
Yes, I finally got some more content filmed because I've had a little bit of a hiatus recently. Just had a bit of a break. So I've been kind of sorting out stuff here. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, mainly for any of you guys watching, I'm mainly a horror channel. I do kind of try and branch out and do other stuff as well. But a lot of horror stuff, a lot of franchises I've gone through, like Scream, Evil Dead, Nightmare on Elm Street. I am going to do Friday, the movies coming up as well. Because obviously it's great to kind of start the discussion tonight. I'm going to carry on and go through the series, and then just going to kind of keep up with some modern stuff going on as well. I am going to go and see the I Know What You Did Last Summer remake sequel, which I've heard is a bit mixed, but I have got a review for the original coming as well. So all
Nice.
sorts of stuff like that, and then obviously I've got some videos with you coming up, Clayton, doing
Yep.
some horror collab stuff together as well, which is going to be great fun. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I may have announced it. We are going to be doing a top 50 favorite horror film from the 1980s. So I did one from the 70s. That went really well. It's one of my highest viewed ones so far. Got good feedback on that one. I think I
Great
mentioned
video.
in that one that I plan on doing one from the 80s. So Brian's going to join us on that one. Jack's going to join us on that one. I think Jason from Backtrack Cinema, I think he might be joining us on that one as well. So that should be fun. I think that's coming. When did we say? September, August? I think
It was
August.
late August, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
late
late
August. Yeah.
August. So that one's going to be coming up soon.
Cool.
And then we also have top 10 favorite actresses coming up, top 10 favorite actors after that. So we got some more collabs coming up. But thank you all for being here, for tuning in. Hope you guys had some fun. Come back next month for Texas versus Texas. What's up, Dominic St. Clair showing up? What's up, man? You just missed it, buddy. Hopefully you can watch it back, because I know you're a big Friday fan. So hopefully you can watch this back and enjoy it. And let me know your thoughts, man, too, for sure. I'd like to hear your thoughts. See Russell saying, question for Jack: have you seen the new Jurassic World Rebirth yet?
I have not. I haven't seen it yet. I'm a little bit, but I mean, I didn't actually even see Dominion. That's how up to date I am with the Jurassic Park films. Might have
Yeah,
reminded you because I got my Jurassic Park T-shirt on tonight.
I
I
know.
love the
Yeah,
original.
I
I love
love
it.
the original.
The
The
original is a
original
great
Jurassic Park
film.
is so good.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
I haven't been that excited. Since ever since Jurassic World, I've not been that into the new ones. I thought that was okay. Fallen Kingdom. You didn't watch
yeah,
Dominion. Never caught it up afterwards, and I still haven't seen Rebirth.
yeah.
So
I
I
haven't
can't give
seen
you an
it either.
opinion yet on that. But no.
Yeah, I like the first one. I think either two or three. I still kind of enjoy, and I saw I think the first one of the new series or whatever. But yeah, I don't think I've seen any of the ones after that. But
No.
um, Tom saying I was talking to a friend that I haven't talked to in a while. Dude, all good, man. All good. We're wrapping up, but dude, you could definitely run it back. Let me know what you're thinking. In case you didn't hear, Dom, we'll start being a series. So Jack will come on here with me, and next month we're going to be doing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre original versus the remake. So love to have you on that one. And let's see, Russell saying love the original Jurassic Park trilogy. And okay, so cool. All right, we're gonna wrap it up there, guys. We're going for about 2 hours. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, go check out Jack's channel, give him a thumbs up, subscribe, and yeah, until next time, guys, kick it and rock on.